What up, y'all? It's your boy RD here. And today, I'm gonna save you 30 grand, maybe even more, by giving you the steps you need to take to do your own AI readiness audit. I'm doing this episode so soon after the last one for two reasons. One, I'm new to this YouTube game and I'm trying to get my reps in. And two, the news has been quick to call out early AI implementations as failures. So I figured I'd arm you with the secret sauce to the successful ones. And straight up, this is not rocket science. You ever heard the old carpenter's adage, measure 3 times, cut once? It's no different than that. The ones that were successful, they took their time to understand product, process, fit. They understood what they did well, and they understood where their biggest bang for their buck could be. But before we get into it, a word on the quote-unquote failed pilots. Pilots should have a reasonably high failure rate. 95 is a little bit extreme, but when we think about the fact that ChatGPT, the chatbot started in 2022, and agents really started last year with the deep research, you could expect there to be a fairly high failure rate. And by fail, I mean it fails to deliver ROI, but is it really a failure if you're on the cutting edge of learning how to use a new tool? Maybe it is if you have investors and they're pressuring you for quarterly or yearly profits, but I'm willing to bet that if you used any of these tools, you've felt the lift. You've approached tasks you didn't feel equipped for in the past, and most of all, you've seen the possibilities. Now, returning to the subject of doing your own audit, why would you even want to do that? Well, I've been in this business for quite some time, and I've got friends and colleagues in the space that charge between 15 and 60 grand for an audit. And I'm about to give you our playbook for free. How to map your processes so you can see exactly where automation, AI agents, AI workflows, AI platforms actually work for you. And before we dive in, let's get one thing straight. This isn't magic. And in this case, we're talking about Gen AI. LLMs, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. AI built on data collection, aggregation, consolidation, and predictive algorithms with reinforcement learning and all these other techniques. It basically gives you what's most likely to be the correct answer. And most of the time, it's really good at that. If you can curate the inputs well, and if you're listening to this, you've probably heard about prompt engineering or context engineering, both terms which basically mean priming the LLM to have a narrow enough scope to give you a quality answer. So you have to look at your data like an art auction, and your LLM like a buyer in the stands, willing to go all in for the piece of art that you expect to get the highest price for. It's gamification. And by price here, I mean compute energy. We want the most amount of compute directed in exactly the right place, and that's how we're going to get the best response. That's how we're going to get the best answer. To take the metaphor even further, you have to look at your processes themselves like art curation. Okay? Each process has not only an operational cost, but also a knowledge and a risk cost. It requires certain knowledge, existing data, and mistakes have certain impacts on your business. Even having the wrong information, even having the wrong art piece at the auction could distract the buyer from the prize you want their attention directed at. So the real work, the work that determines success or failure, is being the best curator you can be and fully understanding your buyer, their needs, their wants, their desires. So let's get into what an AI readiness framework actually is and how do the auditors look at it. Well, for us, we look at 5 areas. And we like to start with the most important one because it's the one that everyone skips. And I like to let people know from the get-go whether or not this is even worth your time. And the first step is process mapping. And it's the first because it's the most painful. But honestly, it's where the magic happens. And by magic, I mean where you figure out if you're about to waste your money or actually build something useful. And the first step to this is list your core business processes. Write down every single major process in your business. And I'm talking about everything from how do you get new customers? How do you deliver your service or product? How do you handle customer support? How do you manage your inventory or resources? How do you handle inventory or service delivery? How do you handle billing and collections? How do you handle onboarding of new employees? Don't overthink it. Just list. Step 2, pick your top 3 most critical processes. And these are the processes that if they broke tomorrow, this would seriously hurt your capacity to function at all. Step 3, map each process. For each of your top 3 processes, I want you to document every single step as they are today. Don't look at the SOP, look at what's happening today. Start with when X happens, we do Y, and then. Then document each handoff, each decision point, and each part where data gets passed. It can be sloppy, but it has to be thorough and accurate. And when you're done, throw it into an LLM to better structure it. It's one of the things they're really, really good at. Here's the key question for each step. What information does the person need to complete it? And where does that information come from? Your red flags to look for are steps where people say, I just know how to do it. Information that exists in multiple places, multiple programs, multiple spreadsheets. Steps that require hunting for information. Decision points with no clear success or failure metrics or criteria. Handoffs where information often gets lost. Now, how are we going to score this? If you can document 80% of each process clearly, that's 3 points. If you can document 60 to 80%, that's 2 points. If you can document 40 to 60%, that's 1 point. And if you can't clearly document the processes, that's a 0. Now, the second area we're going to look at is current AI usage. Now that we know our processes, let's look at what's already happening around us with AI. Let's walk around the office. Ask the team directly, what tools are you using and for what specific processes and steps? You're going to document every single AI tool that's being used, that whether you provided it to the team or not, which process step it's being used for and why, what kind of data they're feeding these tools and where it comes from. And finally, whether or not your team is using their personal or business accounts. This is not only going to give us an idea for the current aptitude and willingness of our team to use AI, but we'll also be able to harvest quality use cases and target our efforts around what everyone is already doing. Our audit allows us to have some kind of bottom-up potential while we're taking the first steps to creating some top-down structure. And you got some red flags if people are using their personal accounts to process business data, because that's a compliance issue. And they're exposing your business data publicly, and you need to fix that immediately and figure out why they're using it. Are you providing state-of-the-art models for your team? And then you need to fix that because they decided that it's going to be useful. So how are we going to score that? If we have clean AI usage with business accounts and clear policies and everyone knows everything, that's 3 points. Some AI usage with mixed personal business accounts, that's 2 points. And scattered AI usage with no oversight, that's 1 point, because at least they're using it. And if you have no idea what tools people are using, whether or not they're using it, and it's just a mess, that's 0. Data integration is the third area that we're looking at. For each mapped process, we want to ask, how many different systems does each process touch? Then ask, can these systems talk to each other automatically, or does someone have to manually move data between them? Here's a simple test. Pick one customer and try to trace their complete journey end to end through your business. How many different systems did you have to look for to see the full journey of this customer? Now, the goal here is to measure how much data consolidation that we actually have. Like, do we have a single source of truth? Each process maybe has a specialized program or software that best fits its use case. That's fine. But when we're talking about integrating LLMs, it's usually helpful to have a single source of truth that the LLM can reference. And here's how we score this. If most processes use 1 or 2 integrated systems, that's 3 points. If most processes use 3 to 4 systems with some integration and some manual passing back and forth, that's 2 points. And if most processes use multiple systems with manual data transfer exclusively, that's 1 point. And finally, if data is scattered everywhere with no integration whatsoever, you got 0. Now let's look at the fourth area, decision-making complexity. This is where we start to see where different types of AI fit. For each step in your mapped processes, categorize the decision making. Is it simple rule-based? Does it have clear if-then logic? If a customer is a wholesale client, then use this pricing, and if they buy this much, then this is their price range, right? Is it pattern recognition? Does it require recognizing patterns but follows consistent logic? Categorize this customer support ticket based on this content in this form. Does it require complex judgment? All right. Does a person need experience? Do they need context, nuanced thinking? Like, determine the best approach for this unique customer situation. Usually this falls in the legal or compliance departments. And how are we going to score this? If we have clear categorization of decision types across processes, that's a full 3 points. If most decisions are categorized, that's 2 points. If some decisions are categorized, and I'm saying above 30%, that's 1 point. And anything less than that, you get 0. And last, we want to look at our technical infrastructure. And the main question here is, can your current systems support what you want to build? You don't need to be a technical whiz to be able to answer this. For most of these questions, if you're using like modern technology with API documentation, then chances are you got a full 3 points. But, here are the questions we're really looking at. Do your main systems have APIs? Can you export data in standard, consistent formats? Is your internet infrastructure reliable enough for increased data processing? Do you have someone on your team who can manage technical integrations? And how are we going to score this? If you have modern systems with good API access, that's 3 points. If you have mixed modern and legacy systems with some API access, that's 2 points. If you have mostly legacy systems with very limited connectivity, that's 1 point. And if you're using exclusively old systems with no integration, that's 0 points. After we're done with our assessment, we're going to move to the types of opportunities that are now available to us. And here's where it gets interesting. Once you've laid down the groundwork, you can identify exactly which type of solution fits and if AI is even appropriate for you today in your business. For most, ChatGPT means AI and AI means ChatGPT. And some people parse terms to categorize different use cases and love to point out that most of what we term as AI in the business case, at least, isn't AI at all. I'm not here to debate semantics, but they fall into 4 buckets. And the first is traditional automation. And that's rule-based workflows that follow consistent deterministic logics. Process steps are defined, predictable, consistent. And you're there if this process that we're talking about happens the same way every single time. That's what I mean by rules-based. So here's an example. When a new order comes in and it's over a certain amount, automatically apply a volume discount, make a work order, and send an email. This is usually like the cheapest option. It can often be built with no code or native tools, and you don't need anybody. Second one is AI agents. And these are large language model instances that can make decisions, take actions, and handle multi-step processes. And they fit when the process steps require pattern recognition or judgment within defined boundaries. And you're in this area when the steps to the process require categorization or classification. And it's not part of the data set or the data package. Processes where humans make similar decisions repeatedly based on the same criteria. Tasks that need context from multiple data sources if you don't have a single source of truth. And situations where the right answer exists, but it requires some analysis. And here's an example. Someone reviews an incoming support ticket, categorizes it by urgency and type, assigns them to the right team member, and drafts a response, right? And this is usually like a mid-cost range because you got to put a lot of guardrails on this because AI agents are great at being creative and not so great at being consistent. Now let's talk about AI enhanced automation. And this is when traditional automation workflows and AI injections kind of marry. And it fits where it's predictable for the most part, but 1 or 2 steps in the process require some kind of intelligence or decision making. And you know you're there when the processes are mostly rule-based, but you got one or two judgment calls. Or where the workflows, humans occasionally need to make exceptions. Or where the processes, the majority of the steps are predictable, but one step requires like outside analysis. And an example is an automated invoice processing system that a person needs to check and extract data from different invoice formats, but then follow standard rules after that to figure out who's got to approve the invoice, right? So this is usually like a nice in-between cost between traditional automation and AI agents. And the last one is AI-first platforms. And what this is centralized intelligence infrastructures that consolidate multiple data sources and apply layers of intelligence so that they can make decisions on multiple data sets. And they really fit in organizations with fragmented data systems that need to consolidate the company data in order to make decisions. Or if you've got overarching goals that are trying to integrate AI within your entire organization. And it's really, really great. You're in there when you have manual reporting that pulls data from multiple data stacks, when you have repetitive data consolidation work from different business functions, when decision-making would benefit from combining insights across business areas, when you are looking for predictive analytics, or when you have processes that require using the same data, but you want to use it in different ways and you're trying to get creative over it. And an example is if you have a unified platform that integrates CRM, ERP, marketing, operations, and then applies intelligence layers for sales forecasting, inventory optimization, customer segmentation, and real-time dashboards, all while maintaining a single source of truth for the company data. Now, this is the most expensive, but it also offers the greatest opportunity for transformation. So if you think you're in this kind of category, if this is where you want to be, choose wisely and take your steps there. Now we want to talk about how do we choose which approach is right for us. Now I'm going to say if you're not in this at all, start with traditional automation, but here's the framework. Go with traditional automation when your steps are deterministic. You have a bunch of if-then statements. Decision criteria is clear and consistent. All your data is very well structured. The process rarely needs exceptions. You want to consider AI agents when your process requires judgment calls that humans make consistently. You need to handle unstructured inputs like emails, documents, and conversations. And the process benefits from learning and improving over time. And finally, you have clear success criteria to measure AI performance. This is when you're talking about evals. So you use AI enhanced automation, right? Like the marriage between the two, when most of the process it's applied to is rule-based, but not all. And what I mean by that is one or two steps require pattern recognition or content analysis. That can be subjective. You want the reliability of automation, but the flexibility of AI intelligence in certain parts of your process. Or you're dealing with semi-structured data that requires interpretation. And finally, you're going to choose an AI-first platform when you have data that's scattered across multiple business systems, like 4+, that need integration and consolidation. You have multiple departments that are solving similar problems with different tools. You're spending significant time on manual reporting and data consolidation, right? Like people are moving from one spreadsheet to another spreadsheet to produce a weekly report. You want to enable company-wide analytics and predictive capabilities. You have multiple automation opportunities that would benefit from shared data. You need real-time visibility across different business functions. And finally, your current approach to AI is creating more silos instead of breaking them down. The key question here is, are we trying to solve data and intelligence problems across the entire company or just in an individual process? If you're looking at the entire company, then the AI first platform makes sense. But if you're focusing on optimizing single processes, choose one of the other three. Okay, so we've gone through this and let's make sense of our scores. Let's add up our scores. And if you're in that 13 to 15 range, you're ready. Start mapping which type of AI processes make sense. If you're 10 to 12, you're close, but focus on the areas where you scored the lowest first. If you're 7 to 9, you need to work on your business and the way that you handle data. And if you're below 7, stop, don't think about AI, and get your processes mapped and do some due diligence. So what's next? If this audit revealed gaps, here's your action plan. And I promise there's going to be no surprise with the step 1. And step 1 is map your processes. Pick your most critical processes and document every step completely. And if you're skeptical, then pick your least critical processes and then map those. Next is identify the low-hanging fruit. Look for simple automation opportunities first. That technology has been available to you for 5, 10, 15 years. And if you're only now looking at it, right, then you've got some work to do. No disrespect. Next is find your AI agent candidates. Processes that need judgment but follow defined patterns. Next is you want to spot those enhancement opportunities, those rule-based processes with 1 or 2 complex decision points. And here's the thing, you want to start small. Pick one opportunity and build it right. Find your problem statement first and then decide the technology. Look, I want to close with this. Most consultants, they won't teach you this framework because this is probably the hardest step that they are charging you the most for, right? When you understand your processes this well, you ask better questions, make smarter decisions, and you can measure the results of your initiative. But here's the thing. For me, I don't care because I'd rather work with businesses that understand what they actually need. Because when you map your processes first, when you choose the right type of AI for each situation, that's when we can build something that actually moves the needle in your business. That's the experience that I want. And the businesses that skip that process mapping, they're the ones that are part of the 75%, the 70%, the 95%, whatever study you're looking at. All of them are the vast majority of failures. Just don't be that business. Do your due diligence. Understand where different types of AI actually fit or where simpler solutions fit. And when you've done that work, that's when AI becomes your competitive advantage instead of your expensive experiment. That's it for today. And if this framework helped you identify opportunities you hadn't seen before, or if you completed your readiness audit and everything looks good, Let me know. Let me know if this helped you. I would love to hear what you found about you and your business. Leave a like, leave a subscribe. It helps the algorithm. Until next time, this is Ryan Duffy signing off. Peace.